Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, Mother Nature will be bringing fireworks through the next several days with rounds of severe storms, especially throughout the 4th of July. We'll get into those details. And then the middle of July is trending a little bit more active with more extreme heat building and bigger storms toward the middle of the month. And then at the end of the video, we're going to be going over your tropical weather update as a new system is likely to form in the eastern Pacific Ocean. We'll get into those details later on in today's video. But first up is the storms across the East Coast. We have a slight risk of severe weather across the Delmarva region here into Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, and then all the way south into the Carolinas today, including the Raleigh area, Charlotte and the Greensboro region as well into North Carolina. And there is a tornado risk, a 2% shading across parts of New Jersey, including near the Philadelphia region there into southeastern PA. We also have the Baltimore, Washington, D.C., even the Richmond and Norfolk areas also included in that tornado probability later on today. It's not a high-end tornado threat. It's a 2% shading here, the lowest on the scale, but an isolated tornado or two will be possible. And looking at the coverage today of storms, it's more widely scattered. So you look down the street, you may have a downpour, and then the other side of the street may be dry. That's the type of weather pattern we're seeing across the East Coast today, just kind of some pop-up showers and storms. So one neighborhood could get missed out on rain. Other neighborhoods could see up to an inch of rain. It just depends on where those storms do set up this afternoon and evening. But then the attention for the week turns back to the west. We have a cold front dropping out of Canada here in association with an upper level low pressure system spinning up into the Saskatchewan, Manitoba region, and an attendant cold front will be dropping south and east through the upper Midwest and eventually reaching the Ohio Valley and mid-Mississippi Valley by the time we get into the middle of this week. So another slight risk for severe weather today across southeastern portions of Montana, northeastern Wyoming, getting through much of the state of South Dakota, including the Rapid City area, Aberdeen, and down to Sioux Falls, and also into southwestern portions of Minnesota. And we do have a marginal risk to the east into the Twin Cities region. This is mainly going to be for damaging winds and hail, and it could be significant, especially around western portions of South Dakota. We could have wind gusts up to 75 plus miles per hour today. And the threat for significant hail in these hatch risk areas into the Rapid City area and just west of Aberdeen. We could be seeing hailstones of 2 inches or larger in diameter. So definitely want to move your cars undercover later on today if you live in the Rapid City area just to take the proper precautions. And a couple of tornadoes will be possible, mainly again into central and western South Dakota and into northeastern portions of Wyoming as a 2% shading for tornadoes as we go through the afternoon today. So looking here into the afternoon, into the evening, we will start to see isolated storms popping up 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, but the main coverage of storms, the main wave of storms will be pushing from west to east across the Dakotas here and eventually into southwestern Minnesota this evening into the overnight hours. That's with the highest coverage of storms. And again, the damaging winds and hail threat will be the main mode of severe weather, although you see a couple of storms out ahead of the main complex itself that could be more isolated in nature. Those could be supercells that could be alone and could produce tornadoes, so we'll definitely have to watch out for that as well. But going into the 4th of July tomorrow on your Tuesday, the cold front will sag down further to the south and east ever so slightly through the upper Midwest, and we have another widespread area of severe weather possible with a slight risk here from the upper peninsula of Michigan, getting into Minnesota there, the Duluth region, the Twin Cities, all the way down through Omaha here, Hastings, Nebraska, and even getting into the Denver area into Colorado as well. Cheyenne, Wyoming, some of the areas impacted by the severe weather on Tuesday. Tomorrow, and this could be a little bit more potent on your Tuesday evening with a squall line or two trying to develop here, with the most potent squall line probably across Nebraska, getting into northwestern Kansas with the strongest heating and instability further to the south across those regions. And then we do it all over again on Wednesday. The cold front will continue to move to the south and east so ever so slightly, eventually erupting storms across the middle Mississippi Valley and the western Great Lakes by Wednesday afternoon. afternoon and evening. And here we go again, another slight risk for severe weather, this time further to the south, including the Chicago area, Indianapolis, the St. Louis region, Kansas City, and then further west toward Amarillo and even the Denver area once again as we go into Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night. And the coverage again will be scattered, maybe some numerous storms at times with lines of storms pushing from west to east or northwest to southeast across portions of the Chicago area, getting in towards Indianapolis, St. Louis, and then back there into the Central Plains, especially with the highest coverage expected on Wednesday evening. And then here we go. Attention turns back to the west later on the week on Thursday, July 6th for another slight risk here. The Storm Prediction Center did post from the Rapid City area down through North Platte, the Denver region, all the way south into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. So another threat for severe weather moving forward into your Thursday time frame. So when you add up all the rainfall of all these rounds of showers and storms, severe or not, we will be seeing some heavy rain, especially to central Kansas. We desperately need the rain down in this region as well. And you can see we're going to get a nice drink of water down into this region, into central Kansas, 1 to as much as 3, maybe isolated 4-inch rainfall amounts from today all the way through next weekend on Saturday, July 8th. So some decent rains there, but even, some decent rains into the Tulsa region, Oklahoma City, further east into Little Rock there, the Joplin, Missouri region, Springfield, Missouri. Those will be the areas that could receive an inch, maybe an inch and a half of rainfall going into next weekend. So that is good as well. But unfortunately, the news is not as good further to the east. So if you live in the Ohio Valley, the lower Midwest, so we're talking about you in Chicago, Indianapolis, or even further south into Lexington, Kentucky, where the drought continues to worsen and intensify very quickly. We're not just seeing a lot of rainfall across this region. We really just aren't. We're seeing 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of rainfall, and that's really not going to put a dent in the severe drought conditions. But it is nice to see further to the north, a signal up there into the upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, the Twin Cities region, into northwestern Iowa, where we could squeeze out 1, perhaps 2 inches worth of rainfall through the week. So that would be some good news there, but still really not putting a dent in much of these drought conditions into the upper Midwest. And you can see the drought is persisting. We see a widespread moderate drought in the tan shaded colors, even the oranges showing up. That's severe drought, and even some of the reds, that's extreme drought, and that's building further north into Iowa, Missouri, and even back here into Nebraska. So we desperately need a good soaking or 2 of rain across the Midwest, and unfortunately, this rainfall will be moving too quickly and not sticking around long enough to soak into the ground. So unfortunately, we miss out on the heaviest rains there. But going through the week with the temperature trends, it does look like that ridge of high pressure is gone for the most part across the southeastern United States, in exception to Florida. And we'll see a new ridge of high pressure building over here into Death Valley in the southwestern United States today. And then this will shift through the week ever so slightly off to the east-southeast into portions of northern Mexico and the southern Four Corners region into Arizona and New Mexico by Thursday. And that's where the heat will really start to build. And it will take time, but it will build slowly through the next couple of weeks further to the north into the Central Plains and perhaps as far north as the Missouri Valley. But looking at today's high temperatures, it's hot down here. Death Valley into southern portions of Arizona, the Phoenix region, we're up to 113 degrees this afternoon. It's 118 in some areas into Death Valley, so it is extremely hot. Much of the Sacramento Valley there into California is 100 to 105 Fahrenheit today, but the middle of the country is just typical summer heat into the low and mid 90s. Nothing we can't handle as long as you drink plenty of water to stay hydrated. And then as that cold front moves further to the south, we'll get some heat to start building and pooling along that cold front. But look at the refreshing air behind that front. The Dakotas, Minnesota, and western Nebraska, we're down into the 60s and low 70s for highs on your 4th of July. So some pleasant conditions there on Tuesday for July 4th. And then going all the way to the end of the week on Thursday, July 6th, we start to see a lot of that northwest flow behind that cold front move in across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Valley, providing us with many highs into the upper 70s and low 80s, with even some 90s just showing up only into the southeastern United States, and that's the low 90s at that. So it is a refreshing cool down for many communities out there across especially the central and eastern two-thirds of the country as we get later on throughout the week. And this pattern has no signs of stopping. We have that northwest flow continuing through that July 8th through the 12th time frame. But that ridge of high pressure, that pesky ridge of high pressure with lots of sinking air, lots of sunshine and heat, will be building out of Mexico again, up here toward the Red River into Oklahoma and Texas near the Dallas-Fort Worth area, back into Albuquerque, New Mexico, Phoenix. We're going to be feeling the heat and even up into the Pacific Northwest during this time frame, and it really starts to build further north and northwestward through the plains as we get into the middle of July with more of that northwesterly flow over the top of that ridge with below normal temperature signal into especially the Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic states through the 16th of July. But looking at the total accumulated precipitation into the second week or so of July 8th through the 12th, we do start to see some heavier rain across the Ohio Valley and the Central Plains. We desperately need it in both of these areas, especially the Ohio Valley, if we do miss out on the rains during the middle of the week especially. So that is some good news to see that, but it could come with some severe weather. You know, it's still July this time of year. The energy levels in the environment, you have a higher sun angle. The dew points are higher because of the corn sweat out here. So that will lead to some higher energy. More severe weather from July 8th through the 12th is possible across mainly the Central Plains, east, southeastward into the Tennessee Valley and lower Ohio Valley during that period. And then as we go further into the middle of July, that lifts a little bit further to the north. That's because the heat in the ridge starts to lift further and further to the north and northwest. So that will leave much of the southwestern and southern United States dry, and then we'll start to see heavier rains and more storms up there into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. And that's where I think we could see more likely severe weather during the 13th through the 17th time frame of July. This could impact us here with more of those MCS complexes, the mesoscale convective systems, and maybe even a derecho as we get towards that third week there into July. That is something we'll be able to continue to watch out for if you do live up into that region. Well, the tropical weather update, it is very quiet. As we've been stating the last couple of days, the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, and much of the United States mainland is very, very quiet over the next 7 to 10 days, and there's no reason to believe that won't continue anytime, or that will be breaking anytime soon, because all the tropical waves that are coming off of Africa are just too far south to get over any waters for a significant amount of time. It's just traveling over the land of northern South America, over the Central Americas, and then that's why the eastern Pacific Ocean has been so busy, because once those waves get over there, they get to tap into the warmer waters near Mexico's coast and near the west coast there of the Central Americas, and then start to brew up once again. But looking here over the next, several days through at least the 10th of July here, which is next Monday, we really just don't see any real signs of tropical activity much into the Caribbean or the Gulf, which is some great news. We are in El Nino now, so it is kind of going to be a little bit harder to get tropical systems to get further north and into a larger mass of water here, but that is something we'll continue to monitor. But over in the eastern Pacific, it is a different story. We have a 60% chance of development over the next 5 to 7 days. And this is in the very similar area to where Hurricane Beatrice was just a couple of days ago. Hurricane Adrian and Beatrice are no longer a thing of the reality right now. Those are basically starting to peter out just west of the Baja of California. Then we have a new area of interest, and this time of year through the 10th of July, which is next Monday, we start to see a lot of these areas highlighted with more tropical development here. Anywhere you see a dot, that's where tropical development has occurred during that climatological period. And you do see for the European model, the ECMWF model here, next Saturday is the time to watch around, the Friday, Saturday time frame, give or take a day or two. That's where we're going to have to watch out for more lowering of the pressures south of the Mexico coast and a new low pressure development there. The European model has trended a little bit weaker with this system, and also the GFS model has trended weaker, but also slower with the progression of the system here. Yesterday, it had it up near the Baja of California. This time, it's well off to the south and east, but it does have it weaker by next Saturday. And the Canadian model is also trended a lot weaker. So maybe it'll be a weaker system. It is something to keep an eye on, but we can't put all our cards in the same pile with that right now because there is a lot of warm waters just to the west of Mexico. So it just takes a little bit of time for this to warm back up and we have a bigger system on our hands. So we'll continue to monitor this in the Eastern Pacific over the next several days. Well, if you like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics, be sure to press the subscribe button down below. It's absolutely free to do, and you get these daily weather breakdowns on this channel. I do appreciate all the support and all the new subscribers, all the old subscribers out there. I appreciate that. It's very important to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. It does help out more than you know to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible. You are helping me out with getting, delivering this information out to as many people by pressing that like button. And if you want to follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates, hit the description down below the video. Follow me on Twitter at hweather420. I definitely appreciate that. I update on that platform fairly frequently throughout the week, so that's another source you can use for weather information. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. I hope everybody has a great Monday and a great 4th of July holiday tomorrow out there.